Well, we're joined now from Rhode Island by Vladimir Golstein, Associate Professor of Slavic Studies at Brown University. Thank you very much for being with us, Professor. Do you think the war is going well for Vladimir Putin?
Well, what we should know that he's very serious. He's pushed to the wall, and I think he wants to accomplish his goals. His main goals is to get Ukraine as a neutral state, that is the state which is not committal to NATO. And to accomplish that, he is more than willing to sit down and negotiate. For the time being, what he sees coming from the West and coming from Ukraine is just unmitigated hostility, unmitigated demonization. And that's a very dangerous track to take. You know, it was fascinating to watch a British Parliament united in their unity and united in their anger at Russia. But, you know, and we talk about the war, why don't we go back to the First World War, so-called the moment of sleepwalking into a disaster, when United Kingdom were united against Germany, demonized the country, and then the whole generation of young people all over Europe was destroyed. So we have to sit down, all the countries, and that's what Putin wants, all involved countries, NATO and Ukraine and Russia, sit down, and the only thing he wants is committal from NATO and from Ukraine that the country will remain neutral. Of course, there is an issue of eastern Ukraine, so-called Donbass, which probably have to let to the people there to be decided. But that's what he wants. War is a tragedy. War is a disaster. Rather than pushing it and adding more weapons and adding more things, what I think all concerned parties should do is to make everyone to sit down at the table of negotiations and negotiate.
Well, exactly, Professor. So why does he have to invade a country in breach of international law, a sovereign independent country, and, you know, attack civilians and cause huge destruction here? Why doesn't he negotiate the neutrality of Ukraine rather than pursue a war like this?
Why it's happened right now, it's hard to say, but what have to be clear is that Russians expressed their concerns about NATO expansion from the very beginning. And then Putin goes to Munich Peace Conference 2007. He declares this. He talks about red zone. He recently had the campaign, flying Lavrov and Putin flying everywhere, trying to negotiate. And an expansion of NATO, it should be stressed, was considered by many Western architects of actually post-Second World War peace, like George Kennan, as a tragic mistake. It's a tragedy. Everybody should recognize it as a tragedy. And when we're dealing with a tragedy, all sides are suffering. You know, just look at Aristea. They're fighting here. They're murdering Agamemnon. They're murdering Clytemnestra. They're murdering the daughter. Somebody has to sit down and stop rather than blaming just one side and pushing one side is correct. You cannot say that Agamemnon is correct to kill Iphigenia, their daughter. This is wrong. You know, so everybody should be controlled. And Putin, from what I understand, expressed again and again, something have to be negotiated.
The last point. Yeah, absolutely. But my last point is the Ukraine military is resisting. The Ukraine people are resisting. They don't want the troops here. He can take the territory, but do you accept he can never really tame the people, so he will never take Ukraine?
I don't think, from what I hear, from what I read, I don't think there is an interest on the part of Russia to take and subjugate the people. You know, we've seen in 2008 a confrontation with Georgia, which was again kind of connected with NATO for sure. Russians marched to Tbilisi, then they degraded the military, and then they walked back. The days of the Soviet Union is way over. Russia is a totally different, kettle of fish. Yeah. They're not interested. They have way too much territory as it is. They're not interested in grabbing it, but they want to get their point across. And what Putin keeps on hearing is condemnation, devil, terrorist, Satan, Hitler. I don't think this is the way to negotiate things. As I said, we walked already, the world already walked into the disaster in 1914, where on the and Putin is so much committed to getting this point across that we might end up with a third world war. And I think people should be aware of that before they, start tinkering with the idea of declaring the no-fly zone and things like that.
We have to leave it there. But listen, appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
So a momentous. Not at all. So a momentous day in the British Parliament today, but also some big developments in what is going on here on day 13 of the